Hello, this is my Tuesday Inner World where I take questions and comments from paid subscribers to share on video with all of you, all the subscribers. I'm going to try to broaden out the questions and comments so they might apply to more of you, and I'd love to hear from you about what resonates with you. I have a few themes today. One is when a woman wrote about how she has a new appreciation for the way she can change her holidays around that used to be a source of a lot of shame and guilt for her because she feels like she's the mother, she's the grandmother. She needs to take on that role and do everything. But over the years, she's come to terms with this, and she realizes she has an adult daughter now who loves to cook but who needs help with paying for the meals. So this woman buys everything and takes it over, and her daughter cooks, and this woman can instead enjoy the time with her grandson, and it works out well for everybody. She gets to avoid, as she says, the kitchen and all the stress of grocery shopping, cooking, and even figuring out what to make for everybody. And she has the joy of playing with her grandson. So in the end, everyone is happy. I just have to remember that, she said. That made me think of what's important here is for women with ADHD, everybody with ADHD, remember what's truly important. When we have so many considerations, so many things we're not sure about what to prioritize, or when we're over-focused on some of our difficulties around times like this, especially holidays and special occasions, maybe we're faced with doing things that we're not good at. What's important is to remember what's important. What do you value? I hear this over and over again from somebody who's over-focused on what she didn't have to wear, which is distressing, I understand. But when she thought about the more important occasion she was going to, and she was able to remember what she's doing there and what she values and who she's going to see and what she wants to give and what she needs to give and what she needs in a way of connection with other people, it helps to focus what's important to me. What's the most important thing right now when you're overwhelmed with a million details and over-focused on everything that's going wrong that you're not particularly good at, that you think you should be better at, you're comparing yourself about. Just remember that one thing. What's important here? Just like for this woman, it was remembering that what was truly important was the joy of playing with her grandson. It's going to be different from all of you. But if you can remember to ask yourself that question, I think that's an important one. The next comment was from a woman who found my post on connections and confusion about what happens in relationships and how sometimes we avoid connections because there's so much confusion going on. So if we learn to take one small step toward confusion, even though it's anxiety provoking, sometimes ironically when we made that connection, some of the overwhelm disappears because you have that straight on kind of anchoring relationship. This woman says she's dealing with chronic illness, and I always felt like ADHD is a chronic condition that's a lot like dealing with chronic illness. And like we said in our book, Radical Guide for Women with ADHD, myself and Dr. Michelle Frank, you have to learn to separate out these two paths so that you walk alongside of and make peace with your chronic illness, your chronic conditions like ADHD, and then your core sense of self. And again, what's important to you, to be able to hold both of those things. And this woman says, well, she's learned to pick friendships with people who are more low maintenance. Of course, that is less anxiety producing, but maybe that's necessary but not sufficient. Maybe it's important to have people in your life who don't judge you or who are easy to be with, but then also to move ahead and not stop there, to find people who are enriching you too, who maybe people who are higher energy that can activate you, who can bring you out of yourself, to introduce you to new things. You want to find that balance, people who you feel safe with, but also people who you are getting the most benefit out of the relationship that you're able to give to and they're able to give to you. You know, it's hard to always say, oh, I can't do that, or that's too much for me. And sometimes we just withdraw instead. I remember when I had chemo, I wasn't, a long time ago, and I wasn't embarrassed by being able to say this anymore because everybody understood that when I couldn't have the energy to do something. But with ADHD or other invisible chronic illnesses, for women especially, it's more difficult to try to explain over and over again. But it's important to take a step toward saying, I can't do that right now, or that's a little too much for me right now. How about if we do this instead, offering some alternatives where you can still be connected, but in a way that's not using up so much energy for you. So I think, again, the theme I'm hearing is what's important to me, what's important in this moment. The next question was about ADHD and aging, and how do the ADHD issues or behaviors manifest? Do they increase, like poor memory? How do you differentiate from cognitive decline? These are all really important as we age. Sometimes they say that when you're working on doing that inner work I'm always talking about with ADHD, when you get older and you have some less compensations and ADHD gets more difficult to manage, we're already experienced in knowing how to make changes, how to accommodate, how to ask for help, how to get support, how to continue to express ourselves, but in a new way. So you want to continue to be yourself, but change the way that is going to manifest itself. Set up your life. We're used to setting up our life in a way where we can calibrate and redo things in a way, constantly rebalancing. People who haven't had these difficulties before are more clueless and more lost. That's the good news. On the other hand, we lose our compensations that maybe we've been able to use, like our memory or other kinds of skills to compensate, that get weaker as we get older naturally, and then we find ourselves even in more loss. You need to find, if you're really struggling, you need to find somebody to help you differentiate between just older age, normal aging, ADHD, and some actual cognitive impairments. Because what you don't want to do is get diagnosed with something like dementia at a time where you've always had these difficulties, but no one's ever measured it. So I always encourage people, when you do get diagnosed, to have a baseline of testing at some point, so that when you're 80 and having trouble, you can look back and say, hey, I had the same trouble when I was 50. So that people don't confuse really what's going on with you. So get the right help for any serious difficulties. Take the time to find somebody who knows how to sort those out. And always just be yourself, stay yourself, change the way you do things, change the way you get support, change the help you get, but you want to remain yourself. And I think when you've done this inner work that we're talking about here all the time, you're going to be able to accept these difficulties, change the way your life goes, but don't give up who you are. Okay, let me hear from you.